Leland, he first used bloodbath to describe the auto industry and imports from China, Mexico, which mainstream media twisted to mean violence instead. Now he's using it to reference the border. How's it landing this time around?
Oh, now there's a website, too, BidenBloodbath.com, that Republicans have put out to chronicle the crimes committed by illegal immigrants who've come across the southern border. For Republicans, this is their #1 issue. I think what's important to look at is that immigration, and he alluded to this a little bit, but immigration has now become a catch-all for all sorts of issues. It's become a catch-all for economic issues as a proxy for crime, a proxy for chaos in America and a feeling of uncertainty among working class Americans. So the border is now representing all of these issues that former President Trump is talking about. They're trying, whether it works or not, to force Democrats to talk about the immigration issue in the same way Democrats are trying to force Republicans to talk about the abortion issue. Both issues are reflexively bad for the other party. Who defines the field of battle wins. So if this is an immigration election, Republicans win. If this is an abortion election, Democrats win.
Yeah, you make a good point that it's really become a larger umbrella for a lot of different issues underneath it. I also wanted to bring up this. A recent Pew Research Center poll found that 2/3 of Democrats see the border situation as a crisis or a major problem. That's Democrats. More than 1/4 of black voters, nearly 4 in 10 Hispanic and Asian voters also calling it a crisis. Numbers like these, I mean, Leland, cause for concern for Democrats as we inch closer to November?
There's lots of causes for concern for Democrats, and there's lots of causes for concern for Republicans. And Robert laid it out very well, as did you, in terms of how the other person, whether it was uncommitted, undecided, or Nikki Haley, really cut into the vote share of what is essentially an incumbent, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The numbers you point out in terms of where minorities that typically break Democratic are upset, scared, worried about the border, that speaks much more to the class divide in America. Working class Americans, whether they're white, Hispanic, or black, are worried about crime. They're worried about the economy. They're the ones most affected by the chaos that is being seen in America's cities because of the migrant situation, whether it be in Texas, in Oklahoma, in St. Louis, Missouri, in Chicago, Illinois, in Denver, Colorado, in Boston, Massachusetts. The working class Americans are the ones who take the brunt of that, and that's reflected by a growing feeling of uncertainty and anger among minority working class Americans.
Yeah, I know former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker talked to us recently. Here's how he put it. Leland, take a listen to this.
Whether it's the border issue, whether it's high prices, whether it's public safety in our largest cities, if those 3 issues are the referendum that this election is all about, Donald Trump will defeat Joe Biden here in Wisconsin and I think across the country.
Leland, how do you see the former president's chances in Wisconsin and Michigan after he lost narrowly in 2020?
Scott Walker made a great point. I would only say if those are the issues that this election is about. Polling tells us that those are the issues that are most important to voters. The question is, are those the issues they actually vote on? Because if that is the case, Donald Trump should be up 20 or 25 points in these pollings. The Wall Street Journal polling that's out today has him up in swing states above the margin of error, but still not by these kind of runaway victories and runaway margins. That's why you're seeing this intense effort by Democrats to make this a referendum, not on immigration, not on the economy, not on abortion or anything else, abortion a little bit, but to make this a referendum on Donald Trump. And if this is a referendum on Donald Trump, then Donald Trump loses. If it's a referendum on Joe Biden and Joe Biden's past 4 years and Joe Biden's policies, Joe Biden loses. And that's going to be the challenge for Republicans, to keep the focus on the issues when Donald Trump, I think reasonable people can agree, has a tendency perhaps to go off script or at least to become focused on issues that are not necessarily always helpful to him with swing voters.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.